Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Black Narcissus Episode 2. Now, um, I, I struggled to watch this one, actually, because I kept getting messages from my messaging group on Facebook whilst watching, so I actually struggled to watch the episode, and I feel like it took twice as long to watch this episode because of the messaging group. But let's try and talk about this in a critical mind and try to put interference out of the way. So, the plot of episode 2 of Black Narcissus is after saving the guy who gets injured at the very end of the first episode, which was probably the best scene of the episode. It was so good. It was such a great scene, the first scene of this episode, and the titles were the names and the actor credits were going throughout the scene before we cut to the title card. It was such a great scene. It was brilliant. It was tense. It was brilliantly executed. I didn't really talk about the visual execution in the last episode. I've got to do that. Some great visual executions, and the acting is all really great. But I thought that first scene was fantastic in this episode. And then after that, things started to slow down again. And I feel like this is a problem with this series, is that we're going a bit too slow. I feel like we're focusing too much on the religious drama, but we're not focusing enough on the horror, ghost aspect of the series, which is part of the plot. I feel like this series is supposed to be the starter of The Sound of Music before Maria goes to the Von Trapp family, meets the Woman in Black with a bit of The Serpent, the other recent television series I'm reviewing, in a kind of a mixture of this series. But I'm getting too much of the religious side, not enough of the horror side. I'm not getting enough of the ghost. Okay, yeah, that is a bit of an exaggeration. There is a lot of ghosty stuff, and Sister Ruth is getting more unwell and possessed by this ghost, and we're starting to learn a little bit more about her, the ghost, but it still feels like we've still got a lot more to learn and a lot more to tell. I mean, we can probably guess what happened. We saw from the opening of the last episode, the princess committed suicide, and we get a little bit more reasons behind it. But I still think we got more of the horror stuff to focus on, and I'm hoping episode 3 delivers on that, because it just feels like ghosts for the sake of ghosts. If they replaced it with the characters going mad, it would probably make more sense. But because there's so little supernatural or horror elements in this series, episode 1, I can forgive it because it was the setup. I wanted a little bit more, but I can forgive it. It was the setup. Episode 2, I feel we should have had more as well. I mean, we got more than episode 1, but I feel like we needed even more. I think we needed a bit more scares. Maybe because it's a different type of horror. But I don't know, maybe it feels... I suppose it's trying to be more of a psychological horror with the ghost. But I feel like we still got more to go. I still feel like we should have more, if you know what I mean. I still feel like they should be building up the horror angle more, the ghost more, and the effects more. But instead, characters are just... I suppose characters saying how they feel sort of ties in, but I don't know, we're just still focusing on the religious angle more than horror angle, and I feel like we should be going into... the balance should be shifting in the middle of the episode, but no, there's not really much of a shift, really, besides the fact that it's still getting visions, and a couple of ghosts from the past do kind of pop up in some places, but it's very quick. Not really much happens, and I feel like there isn't really an awful lot going on apart from Sister Ruth kind of losing herself to the ghost. But other than that, it's kind of not really going very far. Like I said, I think if it was just the characters going a bit mad from their location, then it would probably make more sense. But as it is, I think we should have had more supernatural stuff going on than Ruth just going a bit mad and the ghost popping up in a few places. I think we should have a bit more of that. Maybe some of the other characters are starting to feel the presence. One character actually does kind of feel like this place is kind of getting to her a bit. The black nun, whose name I can't remember. The place is kind of getting to her a bit, but yeah, that's about it, I suppose. She decides to go, so that's one down, four to go, and the one I said didn't get got barely anything to do in the last episode continues to get barely anything. There's a few scenes where she gets some dialogue and stuff, but other than that, she's barely present in the episode. She could be cut from the episode. Some of the dialogue from this episode could be given to other characters, and you wouldn't lose anything. She's such an afterthought. I don't know if that was the intention or she was just there to make a fifth member. And then we bring in another nun at the very end who might play a larger role in the next episode. I don't know. But yeah, I just feel like the series, maybe my thought pattern is being slightly altered because I had to stop, start the episode so much because I was responding to messages, reading messages, hearing voice messages from the chat. I was in one of the chats I'm in, and I feel like it took me twice as long to watch this episode. It's 55 minutes, but it felt like it took an hour and 40. And I don't blame the episode for that. But at the same time, it didn't give me an awful lot to engage me much further. It's not that much more than the first episode, beyond that first scene and a couple of supernatural happenings and a nice Christmas party at towards the end. There was some character drama that I thought was pretty well handled, but on the whole, this episode didn't give me an awful lot to go on, or at least in much more than the first one. I will say it's a better one, because the first one was so focused on setting up and on the characters. This one at least puts a bit more drama between certain characters, and it's upping up the horror angle, although not as much as I would have wanted, or expected even. And it's moving the story along a bit more, but it's still going at a bit of a slow pace, and I still think we got to move the more horror angle a bit more. We got to pick that up a little bit more in the third episode. Keep the religious drama, because that's not going to be going away. The nuns, they're trying to turn this into a monastery. I feel that still needs to be very present in the story, strongly present. But I think it's time we started going a bit more horror or a bit more supernatural with the story, because we've had those elements throughout the first two episodes. It's time for episode 3 to deliver, because episode 2 doesn't really go too far with that. Even with some of the hints about what happened in the past, there's only a few vague hints. So episode 3 needs to kind of wrap up the story in a satisfactory wave that works for both the religious and the supernatural stories that are in this episode. Because right now, I feel like the latter is being very underserved, and the former has been served quite a lot. Maybe if this was just a religious drama between nuns kind of starting to lose themselves in this monastery, that wannabe monastery, or that it was a psychological horror, maybe those would have made more sense. That would have worked. But we've got an actual ghost or spirit present, kind of manipulating or taking over or influencing one of them and causing some sort of unnatural and not very nice feelings in the area, but not really much is going on. So I feel like the horror angle needs to be upped up a little bit in the last episode. So hopefully episode 3 will deliver on that. As for episode 2, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do this, but I'm going to give Black Narcissus episode 2 a 7 out of 10. I wanted to give it higher, but the episode doesn't deliver as much as I wanted. I prefer it to the first episode, because we're starting to move the story along, we're starting to get more of the horror angles in it, and there's starting to be a bit more drama between characters. We got a bit of that in the first episode, or at least in the second half, but I feel we needed more of that in this episode. We needed more of that. We needed to start balancing the scales a bit more, going from the religious drama into horror or the supernatural elements that have been hinted at and slowly but surely making their way throughout the series, but we haven't really delivered on it quite yet, besides Sister Ruth going a bit mad, so to speak. But yeah, overall, this is starting to become slightly disappointing. I mean, I wasn't sure what to expect, but if we're going to be like this for the next episode, I think it's going to come to a very disappointing ending. So I'm hoping they up the horror and they push on with the story more. We got kind of a decent ending to this episode where one of the characters goes looking for Sister Ruth, who's gone off looking out for, I think, Jim Broadbent's character from the first episode. Oh yeah, that's something I forgot to mention with the last review. This is we've got Diana Rigg in this series playing the Mother Superior of the monastery the 5 nuns have come from, and I believe this is her final role. And we also got Jim Broadbent playing an abbot in that same monastery, and he's coming up, well, he's supposed to have come up for Christmas, and now he's gotten stuck in the woods. So the cliffhanger is Sister Ruth's gone looking for him, or at least has just gone walkabouts, and someone's, I think might be the main character's gone to look for both of them. But overall, I think this episode needed a bit more going on for it. But I think it was too slow for its own good. I think the same problem with episode 1, but that one I can kind of forgive because it was setting up everything. But episode 2 needed to be where the shift moved before the final pieces took their place for episode 3. Also, whilst I'm doing this review, a chat on Skype I'm involved in is now getting very messagey. Can I not watch or talk about this bloody episode for 5 seconds without interruption? That's life, I guess. So episode 3, you need to deliver. Right, that's it from me. I won't bore you anymore. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. But that on the same time, I feel like they still need to be still need. But I'm going to give Black Narcissus, Blackness Heart Narcissus. But if we're going to keep this pace for the next episode, I think. And whilst I'm recording this now, another chat I'm in, a Skype chat this time. Now there are more no. And now, can I not just talk about or watch it? So episode 3, you have to deliver. So